In this solo episode, I am going to be bringing to you some information that I found from a book that I've been reading called Force by Tony Robbins. It's his new book he just came out with this year, and I've had a bunch of my friends refer it to me, and you guys know I'm a health freak, so I wanted to kind of go through what was in this book. So stay tuned, and we're going to check it out together.
These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers.
Welcome to The Beautiful Bag. This is your host, Leanne Hayden, cancer survivor, and more importantly, Ostomy lifer. Each and every week, I'm going to be bringing a special guest or some inspiration for you and a few little stories along the way so that you can learn what life is like for us to be living in an ostomy and why we all think it's a beautiful bag. So listen in and let's get started. Well, hello, you guys, and welcome to this week's podcast. This is your solo episode with your host here, Leanne Hayden at the Beautiful Bag Podcast, and I am so grateful that you guys are here with me this week. This week, I am doing something a little bit different. As you all know, or you may or may not know, I'm an avid reader. I love to read books, and I love health and wellness, and I love anything that can give us as much information as we can about our bodies, our lives, how to live a healthier life. And I know we are all looking to do that, right? So we've all gone through some kind of, whether we've had cancer, Crohn's, colitis, any kind, other diseases, other things happen to us that have led us into living our lives in an ostomy, and we're looking to live it the best way we know how. How can we help ourselves be better and healthier, and how can we help others be better and healthier? So Tony Robbins came out with his #1 New York Times bestseller. Tony Robbins just wrote a new book this year. It's called Force. It's how new breakthroughs in precision medicine can transform the quality of your life and those you love. Now, I'm not finished with this book yet. I'm about halfway done. So this episode is going to talk about the first half of this book, and then I will do another second episode on the second half of this book. But if you have not picked up this book yet, you definitely want to go and check it out. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it all over the place wherever you get your books, but definitely worth the read or even the audiobook to listen to the entire thing. But I'm just going to pull out some little topics of some things that he talked about in this book and why I think it's so important that we all read it. So he talks about, in this book isn't just written by Tony, right? So Tony has also had an advisory board that he has written this book with. There's about at least a dozen different doctors, and they're all bringing different technologies, different things that they have discovered to the table, right? To see how we can all live a longer, not just a longer life, but a longer, healthier life. So in this book, he talks about, he starts talking about our greatest gift, right? Our greatest gift is our body. And we know that most times we need to be our own advocates a lot of the time. When it comes to knowing something's wrong. If we pay attention to our bodies and we really sit back and listen, we know when something's not right. Doctors only know as much as they know, and with changes happening, and I'm going to read some stats to you guys in a bit, but with changes that happen on a continuing basis, there, that was how I was trying to put it. But when things change, there's so much going on that doctors can't keep up, right? They can't keep up with everything. And we go to them a lot of the times, looking for that advice. And even in this book, they recommend, getting second and third opinions. But anyways, what we're talking about is nothing matters more than our health, right? How we know this. Every single one of us that are listening to this know that nothing matters more than our personal health, because we've gone through it, right? And our body is just so spectacular. In here, he describes, and this is just a little piece of it, he says, your miraculous body consists of 30 trillion human cells and produces 330 billion new ones each day. day. Our human cells are outnumbered by bacterial cells in our gut. How many are in our gut, guys? 39 trillion. Okay. Our brain contains around an estimated 100 billion neurons, the same number of stars that's in the Milky Way. That's in each one of our brains. What about the human eye? Well, it contains over 2 million moving parts. Our thigh bones are stronger than concrete, and our skin sheds approximately 40,000 cells every minute, or 50 million cells per day, and replaces them with healthy cells without us having to do a thing, right? Red blood cells can race through our entire body in less than 20 seconds. And if we were to lay out our blood vessels end to end, it would stretch out more than 60,000 miles, or more than twice around the equator, right? Think about all that stuff. Think about just all that stuff. You know, we've been giving this amazing body for free. And in this book, he says, this is probably explains why people don't take such good care of it. Because it's free. We take it for granted. We don't really understand. Imagine if we had to pay for this body, this healthy body, to do all these things. Imagine if this was the actual technology in our computer and we had to pay to keep it going like that. We'd pay fortunes for it, right? So we need to we need to be the CEOs of our own health, our own bodies, right? Experts should be, in the book he says, experts should be our coaches, not our commanders. So they should coach us in ways, but again, how do they do this, right? How do they do this? It means taking control of educating ourselves about what works so that we can make smart, informed, and independent decisions on about how to protect and enhance our physical well-being. And second opinions are important. He did this report. He's quoted this report. He said the report found that the final diagnosis was distinctly different, and this is when it comes to second, third opinions, from the original diagnosis 21% of the time. The second opinion contradicted the first opinion 1 in 5 cases. And 2 of 3 patients, the final diagnosis was found to be better defined and refined than the first one. And maybe it's because, we're getting other opinions, but we're also learning a lot more as we get those other opinions of what we should do with our own health, right? Then he also says Harvard Medical School reported that half the life of a medical knowledge was 18 to 20 months. So it was predicted to head for 73 days by the time you're reading this. So meaning what we learn now is going to change within 18 to 24 months. So how can we stay on top of all of this stuff? And again, we can do that by educating ourselves, by reading books, by taking in as much knowledge as we can. I've interviewed some people who they even do it from a food perspective of their own health, of how they feel after they eat each specific food, and to really learn about their own bodies and taking the time. I mean, guys, our health is everything. And so we should be taking the time to really get to know our bodies and our health. Right? So, I mean, we look at these physicians and, medical staff to have all the knowledge, and they can only do the best that they possibly can with the knowledge that they know. Right? So imagine if we start bringing them like, hey, I heard about this. Did you know about this? Maybe we can even help them too. Right? So then Tony gets into a couple of things. He gets into stem cells and turning back time on our biological clocks. He doesn't just want us to live a long life. He wants us to live a long, healthy life. We all want to live a long, healthy life. We don't want to live till we're 112 if we're going to be a burden on people, right? But imagine if we could live till 112 and still dance and move and do all that other fun stuff. So in this book, he talks about stem cells, and one of the doctors was talking about that he quoted, that he works with here, was talking about the power of stem cells. And Tony tells a story about how he was in a ski accident and he had gone to a bunch of different doctors, and they all kept telling him that he needed shoulder surgery, and he was in pain. He was in a ton of pain. And I mean, if you don't know Tony, he's about 6'8". I've gone to Unleash the Power Within. I've gone to a lot of, I've done the Walking on the Fire. I've seen him. He is a very big man, and he is so full of energy that it kind of like, oh my gosh, how can somebody just be moving and giving so much of himself to so many people? But what he was told is that he needed shoulder surgery and that he wouldn't be able to raise his hands above his head after the surgery, right? There was a slim chance that. I mean, so he kept going around and looking for, different diagnoses, and came across one of his friends who started talking about stem cells. Now, stem cells have been they've been in the news over the years, and it's not the actual fetus stem cell. So what this doctor found was the unused umbilical cords and placentas were thrown in the trash. And he said they were so much more powerful than our own aging stem cells. So what he did is he takes these placentas and blood from the fetus, the stem cells, right? And he's doing the testing now, and he's shown the research of how stem cells really rejuvenate our entire bodies. So Tony tells a story where he gets the stem cell shot, and within hours he can move his arm. And then all of a sudden now his back pain starts going away. So basically what the stem cells are doing, they're helping his old aging stem cells rejuvenate themselves, guys. How amazing just is that story? And that's just one of the ones in this book. And one of the fun facts of what he has done as well is if you go to lifeforce.com, and again, guys, I'm just telling you all this because I'm reading this book and I find it just so interesting. But if you go to lifeforce.com, you can even set up a consult for 30 minutes with one of their people, and set up a consult and go through like every one of your own medical conditions, and they will go through a list of all the stuff that they're finding, whether it's the stem cells, whether it's finding your hormonal imbalances, right? Whether it's finding out some of the other, your hormonal imbalances, food issues that you might be having. Maybe there's different new technology or different medications, even nutraceuticals that you might want to take that might help you. So you can go there and you can find that from him there. Because I have been having these massive hot flashes, guys. So I have an appointment set up with them I have an appointment on Monday. By the time you listen to this, I would have already had my appointment. So I'll have to tell you the results of that too. But what he talks about is turning back time. So aging will be actually curable soon than it used to be, right? So one of the things that he talked about as well that we can do, some of the things that we can do now, right? So Mayo Clinic did a recent study and found that people with vitamin D deficiencies were far more likely to test positive for the virus that causes COVID and to exercise acute respiratory failure or death after they were infected. So, and this has been coming out in the news a ton lately about having lower vitamin D levels in your body, and it really is hurting your immune system. So we want to pick up those vitamin D levels in our body, whether we take a very high quality vitamin D supplement. You want to check with your doctor too. And you can actually get some home blood tests. You can get some tests done at home that you can test you can have a blood test done and they can test you for, what are your vitamin deficiencies? Where is your vitamin D levels? And then you'll know, oh, my vitamin D level's low. I want to pick it up because that will help protect your immune system too, right? So age basically is the root cause of all diseases. Like we're not the same as we were when we were in our 20s and 30s. So it really is our DNA, our cells, right? Our cells breaking down, our telomeres that are in our cells that are shortening, and our lifespan is just getting smaller. He talks in the book about different genomes and epigenomes and other things too. It gets very sciencey in here. He talks about an NAD plus booster that's being tested to be able to it's a synthetic molecule, and it helps your NMN, right? It's identical to your NNM, and it really helps increase blood flow, enhances physical performance and endurance, and it's, I guess, some of the things that he's found through the trials are just absolutely amazing within that. So that was one of the things. The other thing, guys, that one of the other chapters, and he talks about organ regeneration, right? We don't really need that here in the podcast, but maybe we do, right? But they're talking about, guys, they're taking our cells and they're helping create hearts and lungs and kidneys. And imagine if we could have a 3D print of a lung, or they're taking their own cells. And I know he talked about Dean Kamen, and Dean Kamen, he was the creator of Segway. That's probably what he was really known for in the beginning. And he is also doing, he does some iBot, like the futuristic wheelchair, and some other technology. And guys, his office is, I live in the Mills and in the Mill buildings, and he is his office is right behind my building, so I can see his office from my apartment window. And once in a while, I'll see robots walking around out there. I've seen the futuristic wheelchair that he has made, that you just literally press buttons and you're standing up in a wheelchair, and this is for people who can't stand up. So some of the stuff he's creating is unreal. So one of his companies is called ARMI, ARMI, and it's Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute. And what he is working on, guys, it's really exciting. Like, he is looking to create a pediatric heart in only 40 days that'll be sized for potential transplants into infants and small children, and it's going into clinical trials. It should be available in clinical trials, guys, by the end of 2024. So within 2024, can you imagine that infant hearts can be created and clinically trialed? Now, this is just some of the stuff that's out there that is just so fascinating to me in the medical community, and things are changing and so super fast, right? So he also has an entire chapter about the CAR T cell, right? So one of the diseases that we would love to avoid, with the exception of Alzheimer's, is the C word. And some of us have known it's the biggest fear word is cancer. And being a cancer survivor, and some of you listeners know that when you hear that word, you have cancer, it's the scariest thing you can in the world, right? Your whole life just changes in the split second, right? Basically, what cancer is your immunoexhaustion. Your body's just tired. It's just done. It's the bad cells, and I'm putting this in quotes, right? Your body has these bad cells that just kind of gather together, and that's what cancer is. And so basically he talks about the power of the T cells. And the T cells are the immune system's infantry, right? It's essential line of defense against outsiders. So some of the studies that this doctor was talking about in this chapter was, and again, these are all trials, so we have to be very careful on what we do, but this is just some information that's out there. But what he found with these T cells is they've done studies, and he's had patients that he's given healthy T cells. So it's healthy T cells to these patients, and the T cells will go after and attack the tumors or whatever it is in the blood and break it down. The only issue is the kidneys sometimes can't handle that much coming through them to get rid of it. But they've had some great success within administering this and helping people who have cancer and fighting that. So that's just another piece that's in this book, guys. I'm just telling you some of the stories in this book that you might be interested in, or somebody around you might be interested in as well. And then he goes into gene therapy. He has an entire chapter about gene therapy and CRISPR. It is the cure for disease, right? So it talks about gene therapy and stuff when it comes to Alzheimer's. Then there's an entire chapter on the WNT Pathway, which is actually the fountain of youth. It says, by resetting the signals to our stem cells, small molecules can renew our body's natural balance and stop degenerative disease in its tracks. And he goes through this WNT pathway and what it really does in our bodies and how we can have it in our systems so that it can help with slow down tumor growth, right? So it can help with so much stuff. And then he gets into some of my fun stuff, like what can we do today? Like all this stuff is, some of it's futuristic, some of it's just good to know it's coming in the future, but then it's like, what can we do today for ourselves? He talks about our ultimate vitality pharmacy, right? So let's get into some of the things. So one of the things that he talks about is peptides, and peptides are little proteins that have a big impact. And there are so many different types of peptides, right? So you can stave off feeling and looking older, right? Millions of people have turned to peptide supplement market for bodybuilding, performance enhancement, and skin rejuvenation as weapons against the war on aging. Peptides have tremendous potential, and they have to be properly administered. Peptides are as safe as you'd expect them to be, right? So make sure that when you're looking at this, you're getting the highest quality. The FDA affirms that peptides play a significant role in providing necessary medications for the public. So some of the things, there's tons of different types of peptides. One of the peptides, one peptide can help you reduce your appetite, promote fat loss, and rebalance your metabolism. Another one can strengthen our immune system and combat its age-related decline. So there's a peptide for that. There's a peptide to boost sexual arousal and satisfaction for both women and men. There's a peptide to heal the healthy gut, ligaments, tendons, and skin. So sometimes with people with Crohn's and colitis, you might want to take a look at, could a peptide potentially help with some of the issues, right? We know, I've talked to plenty of you who said, I've had to really watch my diet when it comes to my Crohn's and colitis and having my flares. There's also a peptide to increase muscle mass. Can't talk right now. Strengthen your bones, revitalize your skin, and restore your youthful metabolism. There's a peptide to revive our skin and restore our hair. Guys, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different peptides that he talks about in this book. And don't just go out and buy peptides and say, I want that one because it does this. Literally, my recommendation is, check with your doctor. Check with your doctors. If you have a holistic health practitioner that you work with, check with them as well. You can always go to lifeforce.com and just kind of learn about different things that might help you. He talks about another drug called Metformin that literally can help you. So he also talks about a therapeutic number 2 is Metformin. It's a low-risk wonder drug, and it really helps it acts like intermittent fasting and intuitive exercise. So that stresses the mitochondria in the body, and it helps it break down and bring it back. So it helps lower blood. It helps your liver, gut, muscle cells, and it lowers blood sugar. And it's a critical factor of anti-aging. So that was another wonder drug that he talked about in here. He talked about hormone optimization therapy, guys, which I have really started digging into because I suffer from hot flashes from the hysterectomy that I had 6 years ago due to the cancer. They did a full hysterectomy as well. And he talks a lot about hormone optimization therapy. I haven't gotten to the chapter yet completely about women and women's health and hormones. So when I do, that will be the next one that we talk about. He also talks about NAD plus supplementation and recharging our cellular batteries. And he says, okay, so here's NAD plus is a helper molecule. It's a coenzyme. It's found in every cell in our body, and it helps our genes. It helps process nutrients into ATP, the power currency of our cells. It is also an essential component of all things. We'd be gone without it. So, and it says, by middle age, for reasons scientists are still figuring out, we lose half or more of our NAD plus reserve. Poor sleep, unhealthy eating, too much alcohol, and prolonged low-grade inflammation deplete us even more. And so NAD plus, there are supplements. There's a few supplements out there that you can take that will help with that. All right, and that's another thing that he says we can do now. And then there's some other safe and natural health plan enhancers. So these are some vitamins that I actually personally take, right? So I take vitamin D3. and it's a liquid form with it. It has K1 as well in it, so it helps the bone health. But you can do vitamin D3, and as we talked about earlier, right, vitamin D levels, a lot of us have lower vitamin D levels. You can get tested from your doctor to find out where your vitamin D levels are, but you want a higher vitamin D level, right? That will help boost our immune system. Omega-3 fish oils, I take those as well, and that omega-3 fish oils help with inflammation, and actually it really helps reduce inflammation in our bodies. That will help with cardiovascular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's, obesity, all of those things. A third one is magnesium, and a lot of people are deficient in magnesium. Again, you want to get these tests so you see where your vitamin levels are. So there's magnesium, there's vitamin K1 and K2, choline, right? So choline supplements, it's helps support your liver and brain function. Creatine, and one of the doctors really got into this about creatine and the power of creatine. And usually it's used with, when you think about athletes or real fitness buffs. I've used it maybe once in my life, and I stopped using because I really didn't understand the power of it. But one of the doctors, Dr. Lopez, said it's a bona fide arrow in his longevity. He talks about, here we go. So, creatine not only enhances recovery, muscle mass, and strength in connection with exercise, but it also protects against age-related muscle loss and various forms of brain injury. Creatine has a strong safety profile at a daily dose of 3 to 5 grams a day. So creatine was another one that he talked about that we can add to our lives now every single day. And then really there's omega-3. And then the last one is what he calls 23 Vitals. It's an immune optimization product that he uses. So some of those things may be right for you. Some of them may not be. I take fish oils. I take vitamin D and K1. Those are some of the ones that I take. I'm really looking into creatine and saying maybe I should really start taking that again personally for my own self. Then he really starts talking about our mind-body connection. And a lot of times we know that to be in peak performance, we need to settle down our minds. We need to give our bodies some time to heal, right? And we know when we've gone through ostomy surgery and the diseases that we've had, it can play some really major things. It can play with your mind, right? It can really scare you. It can really play with your mind. So what can you do for things that can help you from your mind perspective? And we've talked about this on the podcast before, right? Like meditation and exercise and going for walks and sitting with some things and acupuncture, right? I mean, you can do acupuncture, you can do massage therapy, all of that. Now, chapter 12. I've gone through all those chapters. Chapter 12, and then I'm going to talk about 13. So lifestyle and diet. We know how I feel about lifestyle and diet, right? I work out 6 days a week. I walk every single day. I go for a walk because our bodies need movement, right? We need to heal ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves. So we need to move. And in here, right, when it comes to longevity and diet, so they were talking about people who found, so there was a study that was done, they found that people who adopted a healthy lifestyle had an 82% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease during a follow-up period and a 65% lower risk of dying from cancer. Guys, let me say that again. The study found that people who adopted a healthy lifestyle had an 82% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease during a follow-up period and a 65% lower risk of dying from cancer. That should say it all. Healthy lifestyle. What does a healthy lifestyle mean? It means eating well and feeling great. It means eating the right things for your body. It means we're all so different. There is a test you can get done. It's called Genopalette. And because we're all so different. Some people, need more fats, more proteins, a different diet. Some people need different types of sleep, but there is a DNA test that you can get done. It's called GenoPalette. Tony probably has some in this book too, but you can get your DNA done, and I've had it done, and it tests you and it tells you, do you burn carbs better than fats? What should your protein goals be? What should your carb goals be on a daily basis? What are the right foods for you? The right meats, fats, carbs, veggies, fruits, and it gets very specific. It tells you your top vegetables. Mine is okra and red peppers and jalapeno peppers. Though it tells you right into your DNA. So it's called GenoPalette if you want to go check it out. And you can get into your DNA to find out what vegetables, fruits, meats, all of that your body really, really, really thrives for and loves, right? So it's important to note, many studies have found that diets high in animal protein, now again, everybody's been on this whole, eat all this protein, but there's new studies coming out, guys. And again, things change over time. It's oh, well, what do I do now? How do I eat? How do I eat? What do I do? But studies have found that diets higher in animal protein, especially red and processed meats, when not accompanied by fruits and vegetables. So let me state that again. It's not saying that's the protein. It's saying when it's high in protein and it's not accompanied with fruits and vegetables. So eat your fruits and vegetables with it. They're associated with higher risks of illnesses like breast cancer, prostate cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. So diets high in protein without accompanied vegetables and fruits are higher risk for certain cancers and heart disease. Replace bad carbs with good carbs. And what are good carbs? Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes like beans, chickpeas, and lentils. And guys, some soy products too, depending on who you are, tofu and soy milk. Those are good carbs. They're low in fat, they're high in fiber, and they have a better job of filling you up as well. And good carbs also contain thousands of protective substances that have anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, and anti-aging properties retinols. I can't even say all these oils and noids. But there's so much in fruits and vegetables, and we know this, right? So make sure you're getting the right amounts of fruits and vegetables. And did you know that there is one factor is these certain veggies. So broccoli, all right, I'm going to read you this. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and Brussels sprouts. Now, again, I have to watch how I do that, right? I have to have them cooked for myself. But it says that these veggies contain sulforaphane. It's a compound that reduces inflammation and can even slow the growth of tumors. Again, from this book. Taking your diet into your own hands. So really, guys, let's get a diet full of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, healthy lean proteins. And again, take a look at maybe getting your own DNA testing done and find out, what does my body like to process more? What does my body want? I know myself. I'm just a geek when it comes to that stuff. So people who aged 50 to 65 who ate high levels of protein were more than 4 times as likely to die of cancer than people who ate low levels of protein. The group that ate high levels of protein also had a 74% increase in their risk from dying from any cause. What really mattered in this study that I'm reading you was whether the protein they ate came from plants or from animals. The study found that people who aged 50 to 65 plant-based proteins were healthy, whereas high levels of animal proteins promoted mortality. Now, not saying don't go out and have your steak, but let's get into a more plant-based protein, right? He also talks about fasting, and this is probably the last thing I'm going to talk to you guys about with this. He talks about fasting and the power of fasting, and fasting doesn't mean, yes, he does say, drink water for a couple of days kind of fasting, but fasting can be a 12-hour fast while we sleep, like finish dinner and then eat your breakfast 12 hours later. While I was doing 75 hard, without even realizing I was doing it, I was doing intermittent fasting without really doing it, without realizing I was doing it. I finished my dinners at 5:30, and I went and got my breakfast at 7. I started having my breakfast at 7:30 the next morning. So there was a 14-hour span where I wasn't eating, where I actually let my body relax and let my body relax and process all the foods that were in there already and gave it a break and gave it a minute. Also, don't forget to drink your water. We should all be drinking half of our body weight in ounces of water every single day. That's what our body needs. That's what it craves. And he also talks about microbiome in our diet, right? So we know the importance of finding the right balance of our microbiomes, especially those of you with Crohn's and colitis. And again, like I said, you can do it. You can even go and get your DNA tested and find out what is right for my body. And then the last thing in this chapter that he talked about is the power of heat and cold. Now, for those of you who followed my 75 hard craziness that I've been doing, I did the 75 hard, the original one, which was 75 days. And then phase 1 I did in the month of January. And I took a 5-minute cold shower every day. Now, I was angry in that 5-minute cold shower every single day, but he found a couple of hacks. So I have to really tell you, the benefits of the cold shower, I didn't realize them until after I was done having them. It really did reduce inflammation. My body looked great. My skin looked healthier and clear. But what he talks about in the book is his 2 top biohacks. And he says they can have a profound impact on your well-being, and science is now showing that they can stimulate your immune system, lower your blood pressure, soothe them from inflammation, increase cardiovascular strength, and reduce your chances of having a stroke or heart attack, all in 20 minutes. And it's 20 minutes a few times a week, and he talks about doing a sauna, going in a sauna. So if you have access to a sauna, whether it's a steam sauna or an infrared sauna, he talks about having access to a sauna and working your way up into the sauna for 20 minutes a few times a week. And that, guys, will help you in all of those areas. And then the other thing is the cold plunges, the cold baths, and the cryotherapy, which, cold showers, cryotherapy. I would rather do cryotherapy than cold showers, but there are huge benefits in having your cold showers like I just talked to you about. So you may want to try like heat and cold and see what works best for your body. Again, all of these are just different ideas, different things, different new technologies that are coming up, new things that he's talking about that really can help us understand what's going on in the world and going on in the medical industry, and help us live longer, healthier lives. So here's your checklist, right? So what are you going to work on? Are you going to hydrate a little bit more? Are you going to eat foods closer to their natural source, your fruits and vegetables and non-processed foods? Are you committed to maybe taking a look and saying, maybe I want to have a structured eating window? Maybe I want to just not eat for 12 hours a day and eat for 12 hours, right? Or do you want to do a different type of a fast? You know, you got to get consistent with your sleep, and we're going to talk about that in the next episode. And let's just get some exercise in there, guys. A walk a day, just a walk a day, a 20-minute walk a day can completely change your life. So let's get our bodies moving. Let's learn as much as we can about our own specific beautiful selves, and let's get this life going, right? So the next few chapters that he talks about health and fitness, right? He talks about the power of sleep, health and fitness. We're going to go through next one. Beauty, women's health and the cycle of life, where I'm digging into that one, right? Our brain, how to handle our brain. And then there's a whole chapter on how to win the war on cancer and different technologies. He talks about diabetes, obesity, other technologies that are coming, and the power of our mindset and the power of making decisions. So all of that is the second half of the book. And I'm going to finish this book. I'm going to take some more notes on it and bring it to you on another episode, a part 2 episode, so that we can all just live those best lives, right? We've been given the second chance at life, so let's live it the best way we possibly can. So for now, I am checking out, and I will see you on the next podcast. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you enjoyed this podcast, get the behind the scenes at leannehayden.com/ostomy updates. And also, if you found this episode encouraging, please screenshot it and share it on Instagram. And don't forget to tag me and also the person who was on the episode with me. I occasionally will do special gifts for anyone who does do a screenshot and share it on Instagram or in your stories. Also, lastly, please go to Apple or Google, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to keep up with them every single week. I enjoy you guys. Thank you so much for being here.